And so Abiola gathered the strongest men in the land of Okodu, and he enhanced them with power, and they became like demons before men, and they spread themselves like wildfire throughout all the lands, and seeking for all newborn child. And there was war throughout the three kingdoms, battling against the men of Okodu. But none of them stood a chance, as the men of Okodu was enhanced with the power of the great evil. They started from the land of Zambuza and to the land of Obala, and the battle lasted for 3 months in these two lands. And the men and women from these lands ran to the land of ANAKU for safety and protection, and they brought news to the high priest of ANAKU. Men and women gathered in the town hall, shouting, "Brothers, war is coming." And the priest gathered all of them and instructed the villagers to help as many as they can. However, during that time, ADAKU was living alone as she was heavily pregnant, and her husband had separated from her after accusing her of meeting with another man, even as ADAKU tried to explain that the pregnancy was one she could not understand, because before she got pregnant, she did not meet her husband or another man. And at that time, she was living alone in the forest because they drove her out of the main village. For any man or woman who commits adultery will be banished and driven to the forest to live. And so she lived there for months. She lived in a wooden tent she made from dry woods and lived in the forest. She would cry day and night for the gods to deliver her and have mercy upon her. And after 9 months, on the day of her delivery, it was evening time, and the skies was as bright as the light of the moon, and the stars shined in its glory, and there was rumbling of thunder throughout the land of ANAKU, and the rumbling and lighting lasted for about an hour, and the winds carried sounds of melody throughout the land of ANAKU. For the child of the gods is among men. And as the child was born, ADAKU cried out with a loud voice unto the gods, a cry of joy, and she named the child Ijele, after the goddess of ANAKU. And the words of the gods came to pass, and she took care of the child all by herself. She made clothing out of her old clothes. She also used leaves as clothing for the child. As Ijele grew, she understood the secret of the forest. She could hear plants and talk to birds, and with a glance she can see the future, and she wields the powers of the gods. One night, Ijele saw a vision of people running in villages, being terrified like they were battling, and she asked her mother. She said, "Mama, why are we here? I saw in my vision people like us are running, and they had strong houses, and it was like they are battling." And ADAKU, after hearing her daughter's vision, tears dropped from her eyes, and she said, "My child, I was driven away from my village because I was pregnant with you, and it was not by my husband." And Ijele asked, "So mama, who is my father?" And ADAKU looked up to the sky and said, "You are a blessing from the gods, and I named you after the goddess of our land, the goddess Ijele." And Ijele was surprised. She said, "So you mean I have no father? But how?" And ADAKU said, "Anything is possible by the gods." And that night, when Ijele was deep asleep, a woman appeared in her dreams. Her hair was white as wool. Her eyes was like the reflections of many waters. And the woman spoke words to Ijele. She said, "I am Ijele, the goddess who gave life to you. Oh, man has found favor by the gods, for you are a daughter of the gods. You must remember your status and go to the great river in the village of Okodu and recover the great staff of the gods, for a great evil has awakened in this land, for the gods are with you." And Ijele woke up immediately and told her mother about her dreams and the woman who appeared to her. And her mother said, it was the goddess known as Ijele, the goddess who watched over this land. And Ijele said to ADAKU, "Mother, she said I should go to the land of Okodu and retrieve the staff of the gods." And her mother said, "The staff of the gods?" She said in fear. The staff of the gods was created by the great god Anu, and it was used to divide the realms. However, during the battle among the gods, Ijele, the goddess, used the staff and its power to banish ODUMA, the great evil, into the great deep of the earth, and the staff was recovered by men of the land. And from that day, it was used as a means to communicate with the gods. And Ijele's mother, ADAKU, taught her that the staff is a powerful weapon and only the high priests are allowed to wield it, but nothing is impossible by the gods. And so after that night, The next morning, Ijele prepared her journey to the land of Okodu. Her mother gave her paths to follow and she was guided by the gods. And ADAKU said to Ijele, "You are a mysterious child given to me and blessed by the gods. I know now that this is your purpose. Go, my child, and come back with the staff." And they hugged each other, and Ijele left her mother, and she passed through the forest and found herself in a big village. The people of the village was preparing for battle, and it was like war was coming, not knowing that the village she was in was the village of her mother, ADAKU. And as she walks, trying to find her path, people in the village were staring at her because she was different from others, and they were whispering, "Who is this stranger? Why is her hair so white? Who is she?" But however, as she was walking, she walked past her mother's husband, Tobena, and he felt a strong feeling within him as Ijele walked past him. And when Ijele got to the gate, it was locked and was heavily guided, and the road to Okodu village was through the gates. And she waited until it was nightfall, when all the villagers had gone into their houses. And as she went to the gate, 2 men was at the gate. They were about to close it. However, Ijele ran with speed and she jumped at them, separating them into different parts, and she passed through the gates. And the men, being surprised, said, "What does she think she is doing, going outside the gate at a time like this? Does she know the consequences?" And they locked the gates and refused to follow her. And she continued her journey that night, passing through different bushes and deep forest. And as she was walking through the forest that night, she came across 2 old women. One of them was showing direction to the right and the other was telling her to go to the left. They were saying, "Follow this way, my child." And the other said, "No, this way will lead you faster." And Ijele was confused, not knowing the direction to follow, and she followed the third part of the road, as there were 3 roads in the forest. And she walked throughout the night until she got to a village where no man was found. All the women looked afraid and no one could talk to her. As she walked through the village, she saw an empty big shrine, and she had a strong feeling she must be in the village of Okodu. And she started moving around the village looking for the place where all the waters gathered together. And as she was walking, she felt a strong magnetic force pulling her. It was as if she was being pulled by thin air, and she followed the strong force she felt, and it led her to a big river. And the strong magnetic force was coming from the river vibrations, and it was vibrating continuously. And Ijele looked at the waters, and she shouted with a loud voice as she said, "Oh, ye staff of the gods, Ijele, the daughter of the gods, call upon you wherever you are in these waters." And the sound of her voice summoned lightnings from above, and it struck the waters. And suddenly the staff of the gods came out and landed in front of Ijele. And as she holds the staff, a great power entered her, and she was strengthened with power and might of the gods, and she vanished into thin air. And immediately ODUMA, the great evil, awakened and became angry, and all the waters in the villages began to dry up, and there was no food, no fishes, no rain, and there was hunger throughout the land, for ODUMA has unleashed a great evil in the world through his messenger Abiola. Abiola has already taken over the 2 lands, Zambuza and Obala, and was heading to the village of ANAKU as instructed by ODUMA, the great evil. However, none of these actions was the will of Abiola, but that of ODUMA, the great evil. Abiola took his men, whose strength was like that of 10 men, to the village of ANAKU to take over the village and bring 50 men and women of his kind and 50 beasts, male and female of their kind, to ODUMA, the great evil, so that he may claim them and regain his strength, then free himself from the great deep and ascend above the skies to take back his position among the gods. However, the gods had a different plan. Ijele vanished from the village of Okodu. She appeared to her mother in the forest. Her body was glowing like the stars. Her hair was white as wool. When her mother saw her at first glance, she was afraid, and she fell on her knees, thinking she was in the presence of a god. And Ijele said, "Rise up, mother, it is I, Ijele. I have retrieved the staff of the gods from the waters of the great deep, and I know what I must do with it. For we shall go back to our village and put an end to this evil that has awakened. For the daughter of the gods is among men. And Ijele took her mother's hands and they disappeared, while the men of ANAKU and the men of Okodu were battling in the village of ANAKU. The villagers who couldn't fight were hiding, trying to be safe from the battle, and suddenly lightnings appeared with the sound of thunderous roar, and there was flashes with the speed of light, breaking their bows and arrows. Out of the lightnings came out a strong wind, blowing away all the men of Okodu village. And as Abiola saw what was happening, he yelled with a loud voice, "Who are you?" And suddenly Ijele appeared in their midst, holding the staff of the gods and her mother by her side. And she said, "I am Ijele, the daughter of the gods. Who among you dare to challenge the gods?" And the thunderous rumblings of lightnings continued. And Tobina, after seeing ADAKU standing beside Ijele, he fell on his knees and begged the gods for mercy. And Ijele looked at Abiola, and she saw a dark being inside him, and she spoke the words given to her by Ijele, the goddess who appeared in her dreams. And she stretched forth the staff of the gods towards Abiola and said, "O you ODUMA, the dark evil who have blinded these lands, I, Ijele, the daughter of the gods, banish you back into the great deep, never for you to see the light again." And she used the staff to hit the ground 3 times as she speaks, and immediately the dark spirit that was inside Abiola disappeared, and he regained his senses, and all the men that was possessed regained their self again. And Ijele walked to the middle of the village, and she said, "People of ANAKU, I am Ijele, the daughter of the goddess of this land, known as Ijele the Mighty. Fear no more, for the daughter of the gods is among men." And they all shouted with voice of victory, while some was still surprised and was wondering how she came to be. And Tobina, he walked up to ADAKU and fell on his knees and pleaded for her forgiveness. And he told her he was blinded before, but now he can see clearly. And ADAKU introduced Ijele to her husband, and she said, "Tobina, meet our mysterious daughter given to us by the gods." And so 3 months after, they all started rebuilding the 3 villages that was destroyed due to the battle, and there was peace and harmony again in the 3 kingdoms, ANAKU, Zambuza and Obala. For ODUMA, the great evil have been sealed once more, and Ijele, the daughter of the gods, is among men.